Good afternoon. I thought this was tomorrow, so there are no slides. So you can imagine how nervous I am. So we're going to look at, there are no slides. I'm reading the topic again. Governance and compliance with the AI beast. How many of you have already started using DeepSeek? DeepSeek. Quen, done from Alibaba. DeepSeek, are you using it on your phone, on web, or on your device without internet? All of them? Okay, so different AI tools require different levels of compliance within your organizations, and you obviously have to work with governance. All your organizations, there's aspects of governance. How many organizations have data governance frameworks? No data governance framework, then you can't have an AI strategy. So your first policy document the only policy document for AI you can create is a policy that says, do not use publicly available AI tools, and then you pay for your staff to use those tools on the paid version. Otherwise, I'll just go home, finish my 6 hours of work in 30 minutes, and use my time in the office to do a bit of banter. So the compliance aspects, we skip data, we skip DeepSeek for now. We'll come back to that. Why does it matter? Why does it matter to have compliance and governance when you're implementing AI in your organizations? How many of you have implemented? Bolder, proud. You're a very small handful. 80% of AI models never see production. Only 20% see production. Of the 20% that stay in production, about 70% of those have a very high drop-off rate in terms of usage or continuing beyond maybe the first year. One of the reasons for that we can attribute to governance and compliance within your organization. How many of you see AI as a disruptive tool for your organization in terms of the kind of disruption we are saying here is everything has to change? Are you thinking about changing your processes? Are you thinking about changing some of your workflows? Are you thinking about changing even some of the areas where your business has an interest in? Is AI telling you there's an opportunity in this new segment, or there's somewhere else you can maximize? Is it telling you to dump something and pick something up? All these are very fascinating questions that will speak to the issue of governance, why that matters, and compliance. But what do you need to comply to? And there are no how many of you have regulations in your industries around artificial intelligence? Your industry has? Which industry? Manufacturing. You already have regulations on the use of artificial intelligence or the development? The use. All right, so we need two things, regulation on development and on use. So if your industry doesn't have it, why focus on compliance? What are you complying to? Does Kenya have a law on AI? We have about 36, between 28 and 36 legal things that touch. Data protection has a section on automated decision-making system that also reflects on AI. And if I did have those slides, I'd show you all the others, even some part around the constitution and infringement of people's rights, et cetera, et cetera. So all countries have some form of legal framework in a very loose way around AI. Organizations, if you don't have it, why do you need to build it? When everyone says, and I personally have always said, regulation, compliance, and governance just slows down innovation. So why when you're in a field that you're free, do you then need to start putting crutches and guardrails around you? Does anyone familiar with the term an undertow? And undertow. What's an undertow? Exactly. Yes. That is exactly what AI does to organizations. If you don't have any governance structures or compliance structures, when you're implementing this within your organization, when you're developing the tools or when you're using them, the undertow that you're going to get is going to be very unexpected. An example I like to give, now that I learned the word undertow this year, an example I like to give that happened in 2019, we had a tool that we were developing at the law firm to try and figure out which advocates are best placed with which cases and the judge. And we collected a lot of data from Kenya law, the public data. We had our own case data. And even just talking to a lawyer who will tell you, July, this judge, you have to be brief because their mind is already on the summer holiday for the US. They have a different plan. They're not staying here in Kenya for the rainy season. So we try to put all of that into a nice decision model. What was the undertow we forgot about? We were focused on the big bottom line for the organization, which was building clients who trust us to keep that stickiness so that even win or lose, the advocates will still get paid. But we want you to feel that you're always going to win. So instead of telling you you've lost the last 5 cases, even if we are high school friends, neighbors, the 6th case, we're not friends anymore. I'm tired of losing in court. I'll get another lawyer. I'll just meet you for nyama choma and in church. So we built the tool. What happens? Week 1, week 2, it's working fine. People start to realize this thing is going to affect my bonus because if I bring a new client, I'm entitled to a bonus at the end of the year out of the total legal fees that they pay. But now this client is being assigned to someone else and they're getting that bonus. That created that undertow. And what do people do if technology comes and they don't like what it's disrupting? You kill it. All of a sudden, the system is not working. No one has logged in, and you have the logs to prove it. But in a meeting, how do you try? Let me show you the logs. That time has already passed. The service is not performing. The service is never up when people need it. The service is being biased to different lawyers. Enough reasons. And I'm arguing with learned friends, you lose. You shut down the system. That undertow was unexpected. What we should have done is had a governance framework. When it comes to AI and its governance framework, we have 3 key factors. You obviously have the enabler factor down there, which is your people, your organization, your policies and procedures that are pre-existing. You have the middle layer, which is, are you using AI to serve your customers or using it to serve yourself internally? Or it's both. You have your upper layer, which is a vision. How many of you know your company's vision or mission? Is it your company? That's why you know. How many of us who are employed know the vision or mission of our companies? How many think it's something like to be the leading brand, to be the best? Most of these missions and vision statements are not measurable. Unfortunately, that will get into a problem. You do have to have that vision and mission for your AI strategy and governance. That must obviously tie back into your companies. So if your company has a vague one, you're not going to change it, but you can make the AI one to be something measurable. Otherwise, if you can't measure it, you'll have a nice undertow come and it'll rip everything off. And because these are very expensive projects, your neck will be on the line and they're like, this guy wasted so much money, millions. I think next year we should find a replacement, someone who's more cautious with their funds. And obviously that also goes on to have ripple effects within your industries because once bitten, twice shy. If I find out you implemented AI and it backfired and half of your team went home, because the board was upset. That was just, you guys were just playing around and experimenting. I'm not going to do that in my organization. I need a roof over my head. I need food. So they could also create that trickle effect, which wouldn't be the best thing. Another reason why governance and compliance matters. What's the difference between DeepSeek and ChatGPT? Anyone? The differences are so many. One is from China, one is from US. Let's keep going. I've done the easiest one. Yeah. Open source and proprietary. Another one. You own the IP that comes from ChatGPT. It is very vague with DeepSeek if you own the IP. If you compare their two policies, and this is why having this whole governance structure matters. If you decide as an organization, you know what, DeepSeek is free, it's outperformed ChatGPT, and it's free. So what do we need to do? We need to do APIs to DeepSeek instead of ChatGPT for our entire 10, 15, 30, 100 devs, and even for some internal staff so that they can get summaries of their documents a lot faster. The policies of those two organizations and how their models are used are completely different. Within DeepSeek's policy, they've actually indicated that they may decide to log your keystrokes and keep that information. When you inference, they store all the things you've inferenced, and they have the right to reuse it. If you have an idea for a business and they find out it came from there, they are part owners. They are very ambiguous. It's very vague. ChatGPT is a lot more specific. We're not going to touch your personal data. Anything you do is encrypted and it's yours. We won't train your model on it, and you feel a sense of safety. So as much as you do have that governance framework, if you're not going to look at what terms and conditions are set by these different tools when you pick to use them, you'll end up exposing your organization, leaking a lot of sensitive information. And you may pick a tool that next week your government says, dump that tool. There's already a bill in the US to ban the use of, to actually ban the downloading of DeepSeek. It's not even the use, they've just started from the first thing that you do, download it. If you download it, 20 years, it's just a bill. It might not pass, but you can already see what's going on, because now there's the battle between open source and proprietary. And depending on which one you pick, your governance structures in terms of governance within your organization will change. If you're going to pick open source, who's going to be responsible for that model when it suffers model decay? Who's going to be responsible when you need to put guardrails on that model when all of a sudden someone realizes if we ask the model in something in this format, it will bypass the safety instructions and give us that information. If you use the proprietary one, what happens when OpenAI, who are used to doing, maybe they're very big on AI models, they decide, you know what, we just want to build hardware and nuclear power plants. That's where all the money is going to go. And they shut down the model. So your governance frameworks around AI, your governance and compliance frameworks around how you use AI, even how you develop it, really matter. I have 1 minute and it's already read. I'll take 2 questions. Or I talked too fast. Then I can start again. I have another 15 minutes and I talk a lot slower. Questions, comments, even one, just one. There's the mic.
Sure, thanks. So when we talk about guardrails, especially, I've seen a number of companies raise concerns about the use of AI within the organizations.
Yeah.
Especially for guys who are doing coding, because code, guys will say, oh, help me troubleshoot this code. And it will give you answers, but now your IP is sitting somewhere and you're not sure if it's still within the company anymore. So does that mean then the only way we can do it is if we run the models ourselves on infrastructure that we control? Or how then do you start to consume some of these services in a way that is not going to be detrimental to your finances, but you still get the benefit?
So there are 2 things you could do. Use a service provider who explicitly will not use your IP for training their model or expose it to the public. Secondly, do your own work in-house. Get a model, host it locally, and then have it write your code. I'd rather you use a model to write code than to debug code. I find AI better at writing code than debugging. It debugs as it adds complexities that you don't need. So you don't get optimal performance. You'll get 300 lines written, you'll shrink it to 200 and optimize it, and then you're fine. If you ask it to debug 200 lines, sometimes it can make it to 50. So the additional things out there also create a risk for you in terms of your code coverage and possible vulnerabilities if it's adding new libraries that it's looking into.
Maybe one last question is, and you mentioned this about putting in the guardrails. We've seen situations where guys put in a chatbot, maybe for service, for customer service, and then guys began to jailbreak it and ask it to generate the chemical formula for C4 and for tear gas. So how do you kind of set it up to make sure that it alerts you when something starts to deviate away from what should be like a normal conversation that a customer should be having with you?
The best guardrail to put, and I'm a bias of open source, the best guardrail to put is a tool called Guardrails. It's available on GitHub for free. This is a paid version if you want to scale to that size, but it allows you to very quickly and very intuitively, without a lot of knowledge on how to code, how to build guardrails around your model. Because effectively, if you don't put the guardrails and remember your tool, you're paying for that API usage. So maybe you're paying for ChatGPT-4. I, as one of your customers for one of your services, realize you have ChatGPT-4, and as a customer, it's available for me for free. So you won't pay the $20. I'll go to your, what does your company do?
We're a cloud services and managed services company.
So I'll go there and ask it questions that instead of it telling me that your limits have expired for the 4.0 model, please wait till tomorrow. I will go there and ask it everything that I need. Work with my homework, my children's homework, my own research, ask it to draw things for me to complete all the work that I need to do. Because you're giving it for me for free, you're paying for it on your API side. What you'll notice, you have a lot of usage, a lot of usage, but the chatbots never transferred anything to humans. Or when you look at the transcripts, if your users have signed off on the transcripts being visible, a lot of people asking for cloud. Me, I'm there asking for how long does refrigerated meat stay good? People ask, so I'm just taking advantage. But if you have guardrails, you're able to put that in place, and the AI knows what context to speak in. And it should always have refusal. One of the safety measures that's embedded in AI is that is it able to do refusals? It's able to say, no, I can't help you. The same way you ask a model, what is the best place to place a bomb? And it says, I can't help you with that information. But if you ask it in multiple languages, it will first tell you, you've spoken to me in multiple languages. It will get confused and it will pick one language that's not English and sometimes tell you,
yes,
do a coffee shop. That was a real case example we were studying in December as part of the Safety Institute for Kenya on AI.
Help me appreciate him, guys.